Merry Christmas, sir. Merry Christmas, sir. You, a clerk, and 15 shillings a week with a wife and a family, talking about a Merry Christmas. I'll retire to Bedlam.
We're going to be talking about the Charles Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol.
Yes. Scrooge is like a little kid. When he gets scared, he jumps into bed and he closes the thing and he gets under the covers.
It's probably mostly because he's just the perfect fit. He just is Scrooge.
Yeah. There we go. Nice little ring to it. Very nice glasses, man.
We've kicked up for the holiday show.
Yeah, I was going to say, very
nice.
festive. Very festive.
It's Festivus. And by the way, do you like the snow? I had this imported.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, I miss it. It reminds me of my childhood.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I could take it away like that.
Wow.
See, isn't that amazing?
If you'd only done that, I wouldn't have to scrape my windshield. Remember that when you grew up?
Yeah, bet you could go out of your car at 0 degrees and go.
But you remember, you grew up in Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
I grew up in Missouri.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember putting a blanket out of my car. It would be so cold sometimes.
Oh,
yeah.
God, yeah. Take forever. I had this old car. It'd take forever for the heater to warm up.
Absolutely.
You know, you're just freezing. And then, of course, the windows would fog up because it'd be hotter. Oh, man. Anyway.
Hey, welcome to Brit Flix. I'm Paul.
I'm Kelly.
And this is $2 Chuck. And we're here on a special episode of Brit Flix where we're going to be talking about the Charles Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Not only film, but television, radio, so many different adaptations of this story. But when, you know, and getting ready for this and watching the different versions, you kind of get why.
Yeah.
You understand why that I think everybody kind of wants to put their stamp on Ebenezer Scrooge.
Right.
Everyone wants to be their definitive Ebenezer. And I think we both have. We have a definitive one, but
I think, for me anyway, all the ones I've seen.
Yeah.
And I saw that they had a version in 1935, a British version. I didn't know that. Well, you know the story, when he has three people that come, three ghosts come to him. First Marley ghost come to him and tells you you're going to be visited by three people, three ghosts. Right. Across Christmas past, present, and future.
Right.
And I think everybody can relate to that. I think I'm sure everybody's woken up in the middle of the night with the Christmas past, thinking about what you did in the beginning, or, you know, what you did in the past and your life in the past.
Questioning your moves, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's such a human story.
I think it's so identifiable, and I love researching all the different versions because there's difference in the takes. I mean, there's the 1938 Hollywood version with Reginald Owen is sort of a more positive look at the story. You know, it's and I think by the music is very
that was all Christmas carols. I think wasn't it, through the whole thing.
And kind of uplifting.
It was
through the whole thing.
Except in the beginning, I find that some of the people that I watch play Scrooge, they always seem to they're all bent over, like they're being pulled inside internally, and they're just insular kind of people, and they're only interested in one thing, and that's making money, and it kind of draws them down.
There's something I think Shakespearean about Dickens anyway.
And I think they're all played like that, you know, regardless, right? I think that the acting is not realistic in the sense that it's a little more theatrical.
Exactly.
But you're right, it's a little more uplifting, a little more...
Well, especially with the Cratchits, because they kind of expand on the Cratchits more in that movie than other versions that I've seen with Gene Lockhart.
Is there ever a family like that, the Cratchits? I mean, they're all so happy and woo, Christmas, and oh my God, this is the best Christmas ever.
They haven't got a pot to piss in, but
that's right. They got nothing.
A very positive version of that. And then you have other ones like Bill Murray's Scrooged. From the 80s, which is a fun, updated version. He's a television executive that is visited by the ghosts. Jim Carrey did a semi-animated version. I think it was the most recent one in 2009.
Oh, really?
He did Disney's A Christmas Carol.
I didn't know that.
And I think that version is more like the version that we're going to talk about. When I watched the Jim Carrey version, I think the 1951 Scrooge is their inspiration because it seems more faithful to that. But there's, George C. Scott did it in '84.
He played Patton, which was an iconic role.
That's right.
Every time you see him after, and he's a great actor, George C. Scott. But every time you see him after that, you think of, expect him to slap Tiny Tim. You gotta walk like the other kids. Get up, throw that cuss right on there.
Well, it's the same thing saying Henry Winkler's version. Henry Winkler did it in the 70s when he was playing at the height of the Fonz's fame. So, bah humbug. Our favorite Scrooge is Alistair Sim.
Alistair Sim, yeah. And he played it real.
An ant is what it is, and a grasshopper is what it is, and Christmas, sir, is a humbug. Good day.
I mean, he wasn't all hunched over, and he was nasty, but he wasn't like, you know, even Albert Finney, who, you know, I think is a terrific actor, in his take of it, but he was a real...
Very cartoonish.
But he had the bad hair, and he was all hunched over, and he was just a mean guy. The thing I liked about an Alastair Sim, he was such a nasty guy, even though he didn't come across like the Albert Finney nasty guy. When he's walking down the street and people, they don't like him, everybody doesn't like him, they kind of separate. And there's a guy, a beggar, that has a sign that says blind, and he sees Scrooge coming, so he runs. Remember, he dashes across the street, so obviously he can see.
So it's just some little subliminal
guy,
thing.
Oh my God, boom.
Oh, that's perfect.
And they had those great British character actors in there, and everybody looked like the part that they had, you know. And that Peter Bull guy that you've seen a million times in those British films, the guy who actually looks like a bull and he's fat and everything, he's in there.
It's harder to find those really good character actors. Back in, you know, the 40s, 50s, those guys worked every week.
Gene Lockhart's, the Charles Colburns, all those kind of people.
This week you're on Christmas Carol, next week you're on this one, next week.
Right.
So they worked all the time. So they made a good living doing small roles.
They don't have that anymore because all the money goes to the top, and there's no money left for the people in the middle anymore. I remember one of the scenes in the Alastair Sims one when Marley dies and he goes to the house, and the Undertaker's there, and he says, boy, you don't let any grass grow under your feet, do you? The Undertaker says, well, it's a competitive business.
It's a competitive business. I thought that was outstanding.
Thought, you know, in 1835, people must have been dying right and left anyway, because of the cold weather and the horrible disease and the filth that they lived in. Because Scrooge goes to bed, you never see him wash his face. Nobody ever did that back then.
Right.
He wears the same clothes, and it must have been so cold. And I also thought that Scrooge is like a little kid. When he gets scared, he jumps into bed and he closes the thing and he gets under the covers.
The covers are shaking.
Remember when you were a kid, you did it? So everything will go away.
In watching this version, I really got the fact that the reason Scrooge is the way that he is because his mother died in childbirth.
Giving birth to him. Right.
So the father blamed him.
Right.
And so that's why he was sent off, and that's why he was at the school. And the sister says, "Your father's changed.
Right.
Now you can come home."
Just as a personal nature, my father, when he was about 9, his older brother Philip, I think was 11, and he died of pneumonia. In those days, they had no antibiotics on Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
And my mother told me that until she met him, he didn't celebrate Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Did your father, through your mother, then get a enjoyment
when my
of
sister and
Christmas?
I were born, and Christmas is always a big deal.
Oh, good.
You know?
Okay.
It was just an example of how Christmas can really affect someone, a traumatic event in their childhood, or something that puts them off Christmas.
Right. And also with the Scrooge story is that Marley died on Christmas Eve as well, these 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That you see in all the versions. All the versions are very faithful of certain
the
events.
basic story. Yeah, you're right.
And that's one of them. And they also are faithful to most of the versions I saw. Scrooge always thinks that it was a bit of cheese.
You might be an undigested bit of beef, a piece of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato.
They're all pretty faithful to those. I thought it was interesting too in this Sim version when Marley's ghost comes, as the guy pointed out, and he's almost like a Shakespearean actor talking about his things, and then he does that horrible scream.
Yeah, I would imagine in a theater at that time, it probably scared the pants off of some people.
Especially kids, you know.
What's coming next?
But I also thought it was interesting in the Sim version they start out with a carol. And it goes right into that ominous music.
Yeah.
And it suddenly changes the whole tone of the film from the very start.
It sets it up immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You're right.
I thought there was a little subtle things too, like when they first see Bob Cratchit at his desk writing, and he's got a single candle there, and he puts his hands, it's got to be so cold, he puts his hands over the candle.
And he was terrific too. I thought he was fantastic.
I thought the whole cast in the Sims version was so well cast, and I love the wife of Cratchit.
Yes.
When he wants to toast a Scrooge.
I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his.
Yeah.
And that was Hermione Baddeley, who was she was in Mary Poppins. She was Maud's maid in the Maud TV show.
Oh,
she was Mrs. Naugatuck.
Wow.
And also in the Sims version, young Marley. Did you recognize the actor that played young Marley? It's Patrick McNee. Patrick McNee was John Steed in the Avengers.
Sure, yeah, right. And I thought it was interesting too when Cratchit's at the table and he has the punch.
I declare, I'd like to know how many families of our acquaintance could boast 2 rounds of the best gin punch. No.
And I thought, wow, he's giving it to the kids.
That's right.
They're all drinking gin.
That's my dad.
No wonder they were so happy. They're all laughing and happy.
Maybe that was the thing, is it got Tiny Tim off the, put him on the wagon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sent him to AA. He threw away the crutch. Oh, that's what I was limping for.
That's right. The crutch was a metaphor for his drinking problem.
Yeah, right.
God bless us, everyone.
So what was wrong with Tiny Tim that he might die?
Oh, what was his ailment? That's a good question. I don't know if I know.
He was, he had a bad leg, obviously, which Scrooge fixed at the end. You see, that's the last thing you see is him, Tiny Tim runs up and his legs, he picks him up and he wiggles his leg and his leg's fine, and then they run off together. So what was wrong with him that might kill him?
Wow, that's a great question. Okay, somebody has to answer that question. So let's talk about Scrooge's moment, his transformation moment.
Yeah. It's transformative, and it's almost it takes place over one night, right?
Right.
Which there's precedent for. I read an article not too long ago about people that have changed almost overnight from some incident in their life that they completely changed everything. And I also like the fact that where he apologizes, like he apologizes to his nephew's wife, and said,
"Can you forgive a pig-headed old fool for having no eyes to see with, no ears to hear with, all these years?"
And the same with when Cratchit comes to work the day after Christmas. He's all nervous, thinks he's going to be late, and Scrooge pretends that he's nasty.
I haven't taken leave of my senses, Bob. I've come to them. From now on, I want to try to help you to raise that family of yours, if you'll let me.
And that's the one thing about his version, I think, that we both like so much, is that it's the most dramatic version of Scrooge I think that's ever been done. And that's what I like about it, because when he kind of sees the light at the end, it really means something.
And he really changes. That I always remember that him at the end being giddy. He was totally giddy because he was just a new person completely.
Right. So we want to thank you for watching our show talking about A Christmas Carol.
Definitely.
This has been fantastic. We also want to take a moment and thank the good people at the LA Press Club. We've been nominated for the last 2 years for Best Online Critic, and no one's more shocked than us.
We are, but very appreciative.
And speaking of the Christmas spirit, there's 2 things we want to talk about. Is the last episode we did at Brit Flix was Kelly Monteith's Too Hip for the Room.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
and we
that's
have
right.
a great announcement that it's doing so well that it's now on iTunes.
iTunes, yeah, that's right.
And it's available on
Amazon and iTunes.
Yeah, so it's getting out there. It's been very well received, and I know you've gotten great notices on it.
Yeah, which I appreciate.
Film festivals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so congratulations.
Good.
That's
Thank you.
a
Well,
wonderful
no, it's
thing,
great. A lot of people put a lot of hard work into it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And we want to give back to you. So since we were talking about the Alastair Sim A Christmas Carol, we have the DVD of A Christmas Carol, and it's signed Merry Christmas from myself and Happy New Year from Kelly, and of course Chuck. Leave a comment below our video, and I think it would be wonderful if they tell us if you could tell us what was Tiny Tim's ailment.
What's wrong with Tiny Tim?
So with that, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Prosperous, healthy, of all things, mostly.
Yes.
And I think you'll really enjoy this. It's a timeless story.
It's a terrific movie. It's great, and you'll watch it year in, year out.
Yeah.
But for us, it's Two Chucks Up.
Two Chucks Up, oh, definitely.
For the 1951 Alastair Sim, A Christmas Carol. Thanks for watching.
Merry Christmas.
God blesses everyone.